Welcome to Insight Inferno. When you look at a map of our world, what do you feel? Is it a sense of certainty? Maybe even truth? Well, tonight we're going to dive into the beautiful and maybe a little bit dangerous illusion of the map. We're going to explore how these elegant pictures we trust to guide us through something as huge as the climate crisis might actually be telling us a different story than we think.
So it all starts with a really simple question. Why do we trust maps so much? I mean, almost instinctively. You look at one and you just see reality, a fixed, reliable picture of the world. They feel so objective, so scientific, so solid. And that's a really powerful and deeply human instinct.
And, this trust isn't just a feeling we have, it's practically built into our systems. The National Research Council points out that when a crisis hits, maps are some of the first and most essential tools we reach for. They help us make sense of danger, they help us plan our way to safety, they literally turn chaos into something that feels orderly. And this deep-seated trust is really where our story begins. In the world of climate change, these maps are used to visualize what researchers call the vulnerability of place. It's like they're trying to paint a picture of the future, showing us where harm is most likely to strike. The idea behind it is pretty brilliant in its simplicity, right? Use a map to pinpoint future hotspots of risk, manage disasters before they even happen, and plan our communities for a safer world. They're supposed to be our crystal ball, showing us exactly where we should focus our efforts. But what if that crystal ball is a little bit flawed?
Because, every perfect picture has a flaw if you just look closely enough. And right here is where the crack starts to appear. The whole idea of the map as this perfect, objective tool, well, it's about to be challenged.
Our guide on this journey is a really fascinating review from 2011 by Preston, Yuen, and Westaway. They basically decided to look under the hood of climate change mapping to see how these essential, super trusted tools were actually being put together. And they didn't just look at one or two maps. No, they systematically reviewed 45 different vulnerability studies from all over the world. They created this huge mosaic of how we as humans try to predict our own future. And what they found is, well, it's pretty profound. It turns out there's no single standard recipe for making these maps. The practice is described as emergent and subjective. And what that means is that the truth you see on a map, it's actually a story, one told by its creator, shaped by all of their unique choices and their assumptions. So this leads us directly to something called the illusion of precision. Because if making a map is subjective, what does that really mean for the huge decisions we make based on them?
It means we often fall into what's called the linear model trap. This is this deeply flawed but really common belief that if you just give people a map, if you just hand them the knowledge, they'll automatically go and do the right thing. But of course, reality is just never that simple, is it?
And this is really the heart of the illusion. Maps look so definite. They have these clean lines and these confident colors, and they just create this false sense of precision. They do a great job of hiding all the messy uncertainty, all the debates, and all the assumptions that went into making them. And that can make us way too confident in what we're looking at. Now, take a look at this because it's a perfect visual example. These are two maps of the exact same thing, the adaptive capacity of the Sydney region in Australia. But on the left, one method was used, and on the right, a totally different one was used. And the results? I mean, just look at them. They're wildly different pictures of vulnerability.
And this just brilliantly illustrates the whole issue. The choices an expert makes, like which data to include, how much to weigh it, can completely change the story the map tells. One map might tell you to put all your resources in the north, while the other points directly to the south. They can't both be the one single objective truth.
So this brings us to another huge piece of the puzzle. If the experts' choices are so important, you have to ask, who are these experts? And maybe more importantly, whose voices are missing from the conversation?
The research paper found something that is honestly staggering. In their review of all those studies, a full 60%, that's the majority, did not engage with local stakeholders. That means the people who are actually living in these places, the ones with invaluable on-the-ground knowledge, they weren't part of the process at all.
Just think about what that means in the real world. An expert's map of a coastal town might be based on satellite data, and it might paint a really grim picture of flood risk. But it completely misses what the locals know. The unofficial evacuation shortcuts, which neighbors have a boat, the strong community network that makes sure everyone gets checked on. That's the kind of data you just can't get from a satellite.
Okay, so if maps aren't these perfect objective truths, then what are they? Well, this is where the researchers offer a really powerful and, I think, hopeful shift in perspective. What if we start looking at maps not as answers, but as conversations?
Maybe the goal shouldn't be to create one final, perfect map that tells us exactly what to do. The map isn't the end of the process. In fact, maybe it should be the very beginning, the starting pistol. The paper suggests we should treat maps as what they call boundary objects. And all that is it's something that different groups like scientists, policymakers, and local residents can all gather around to share what they know. It's not a decree from an expert, it's a conversation starter. And to use these maps in this new way, we need to practice something called boundary critique. It sounds complicated, but it just means we need to constantly ask two simple but really powerful questions. First, why are we even making this map? What's its real purpose? And second, who is this map really for? Answering those questions keeps the whole process honest and, more importantly, inclusive. And this quote from the paper just sums it all up perfectly. The real power of a map isn't that it gives us a simple decision. It's that it helps us talk to each other. It helps us uncover the real, complex human barriers to making good decisions, and it helps us start working through them together. So this leaves us with one last crucial question. The next time you see a map, don't just ask what it's showing you. Ask what conversation it should be starting, because that's where the real work of building a more resilient future actually begins.